Today I'm reviewing the 2008 film, The Strangers. And I'm drinking Beaver's Brewery, Belching Beaver Brewery, Beaver's Milk Stout Nitro. Cheers. Ugh. Anyway, the sequel, The Strangers Prey at Night, is coming out next week, so I just watched the original for the first time ever. I am a huge fan of slasher movies, your Freddys, your Jasons, your Mikey Mike Myers, and what convinced me to see this movie was actually a random-ass comment on some forum that called it a underrated slasher classic. Between all of my favorite slasher movie franchises, there seems to be two main types of films within each of them. There's the serious, actually try to scare you style of movie that's typically somewhat innovative, and usually the first one in any series falls into this category. And then there's a few entries that fall into the fucking ridiculous category that celebrate, purposefully or not, how silly monsters killing sex-having teenagers really is. And most of the entries fall somewhere in between. Because The Strangers Prey at Night is upon us, that makes the original 2008 film officially a first entry. And boy, it does actually try to scare you. The movie follows Kristen McKay and James Hoyt, played by Liv Tyler and Scott Speedman respectively, after a wedding as they spend the night together at Hoyt's father's hunting summer home thing. They receive a knock on the door and a woman asks for Tamara. They tell her she has the wrong house and send her away, but she doesn't go. Soon they realize they're all alone in the neighborhood with three masked persons who have already intruded on their home and have every intention of making their life a living hell for no discernible reason. When I watch Nightmare on Elm Street, Halloween, or Friday the 13th, the first original entries, they all feel a little bit dated to me. There's some scares in each of them, but a little bit of old school cheese shines through. So I don't actually get very tense watching them. I got very tense watching The Strangers. It's a decade old, and watching it for the first time yesterday, it still has a very fresh style of filmmaking that makes it a perfectly scary movie. If you've seen it, and maybe even if you haven't, you probably know that it's all about home invasion. The fear of home invasion is an intrinsic fear inside of all of us. And preying upon that certainly evokes some shit. And the film does prey upon it really well. The knocking in the first half of the movie is super intense. I wouldn't have thought that a movie could use knocking more than once and actually build stress that well. It's a movie that really thrives on the slow burn atmosphere of fear over jump scares, something that I think is necessary to be an actually great horror film. And it's not something that the slasher genre traditionally does well. Usually the first entries will. Again, horror movies should traditionally have a catharsis at the end and have a point. This movie has very little dialogue in the last 15 minutes and little dialogue in general, which makes it a little harder to nail down what exactly the point is. That being said, the lack of dialogue is actually very creepy and lends a lot more weight to the dialogue that there is. So I was able to dig up a point, which was very similar to the point of No Country for Old Men. Sometimes people are simply willing to do evil, and it can be very difficult to stop them. This movie excels at show don't tell and letting you put things together, as with the point at the end. This is a good thing because it's ultimately a very simple story. If it explained things more, then it would probably be a pretty boring watch. For another example, the couple seems very happy at first, but you start to realize something has drawn a wedge in between them, and you're not sure what it is. It's a super simple one-sentence thing, but the movie never actually tells you that one sentence or tells you what it is. It leaks little bits of information and lets you put it all together. What a weaker movie would have put into that one line of dialogue, this movie gets like 25 minutes out of and makes it almost into like a puzzle. This made me more engaged, more sympathetic towards the characters, and more satisfied. It's good screenwriting. I don't really have anything bad to say about this movie. It doesn't try to do much, but what it does do, it nails 100%. But it doesn't try to do much. It's a simple, though very creepy horror movie that gets a lot of mileage out of a minimalist plot and a very low kill count for a slasher. I'm not sure slasher is really the right genre to prescribe this to, subscribe this to, place it in. So what score do I give a pretty simple movie that only had a moderate impact on me, but is pretty much perfect? I don't know. And I think that rating movies in general is sort of a flawed system. That's why I only rate movies like half the time when I'm sure. I know when a movie's an A, right? And then I know when a movie's really good but falls short for a few specific reasons. That's like a B. and then I know when a movie's just right in the middle. It's like a C, and if it's pretty bad, it's a D, and I haven't given out an F. But what about when a movie has no specific reason that it falls short of perfect? Essentially, it is perfect, but I'm not going to spend that much time thinking about it. It didn't really change me in any ways, and I don't want people to think it's one of my all-time favorites by giving it an A. That's why I'm giving Brian Bertino's 2008 The Strangers a perfect but simple horror movie. Definitely recommended for any fans of the horror genre, but not necessarily a must-watch for anybody else or an average moviegoer. Thanks for watching, guys. Stay tuned for my review of the sequel, The Strangers Prey at Night, which will be out next weekish. Please like and subscribe if you liked the video and want to see more, and comment. Let me know what horror movies you would describe as perfect. Peace! But she doesn't go. Yeah.